I got an email from one of our coaches just the other day. I just really liked it. She said all of us type A people are planning for 2017 at this point, and she's had some questions and some ideas for me to consider, which I thought was great. But I thought I would just share with you some of the planning questions that I'm considering. I don't believe that planning for the new year is just for type A people. I think planning is really part of how we do what we do as we're leaders. It's not something you just sort of do once and set aside. It's really part of a lifestyle of leadership. And great planning really starts with great questions. So I thought I would share some of the questions with you that I'm processing through. Just real quick in terms of planning, I encourage people to create a file, usually midway through the year, that they just start filling with ideas for the following calendar year in their planning. So it could be articles, it could be ideas, it could be things that prompt your thinking, it could be just little handwritten notes, whatever it is. Be using a file to just pile things into for your planning time that you set aside. So as we're sort of easing into Christmas break here, I'm starting to do a lot of that review of my file. Then to really tackle this, I think you've got to identify the right questions first. So before you start talking about goals or what you're working on or anything like that, or projects, you really want to look at what are the key questions, what are the most important questions that I'm trying to grapple with that are really going to move us forward. So I've got tons of questions, but here's a few that I thought I would share with you. One question is sort of for me personally and for the people that I work with as well. How do I create the environment to really prime me for my best work every day? How can I make sure that the environment around me is really positioning to do my best work every day? So that looks like saying no, how I respond to interruptions, how I limit interruptions, the creative environment around me as well. Another great question, what doesn't feel like work to me? Those are the things that just come so easy, that are so close to your passion and calling. It doesn't even feel like work. So teaching, coaching, planning, creative work, research, learning, those are all things that do not really feel like work to me at all. And then what does feel like work, right? So what are those things that do feel like work? That's where you have to put some attention to how am I going to improve this, automate this, simplify this, delegate this. So follow up. I'm very obsessive about follow up and follow through. So that means it always feels like work to me that's sort of hanging over me. How do I do that well? How do I prepare well for the above? Even though teaching, coaching, planning, creative work doesn't feel like work to me, it does take preparation, and that preparation takes a lot of work. So how do I better prepare? Those are a few things that feel like work. How do we increase the financial health of the organization? How do we increase the margins of the organization so we're not just doing more and more with less and less margin for time and money and impact? Another big question is how do we create excellence at the smallest level? So it's easy sometimes to do the big and most important things right, but what about at the smallest level? How do we create excellence at the very smallest level? That's another question that I'm really grappling with. And then why should people work with us above everyone else? I think that's a great planning question. And then some others that I always review that you may have heard me sharing before is what can we simplify? What can we eliminate? What can we just stop doing that no one's going to really notice? Where are we manufacturing energy where we sort of have to crank ourselves up? And then what can we innovate? What can we really do that's new and different? So those are all key planning questions, some of these very, very specific that I'm reviewing. Thought I would share that with you and hope it really challenges and inspires you before you dive into your planning and who's going to do what and all the projects and all the timelines. Clarify the right questions. So the quality of your thinking is determined by the quality of your questions. So start there and let me hear from you. Let me hear how you are working on planning for next year, and let me hear the questions that are really guiding you. Love to hear it. So have a great one. Okay, thanks.